Honeymoon Studios. Whoa. Powered by
People.
Are you Nicholas?
It wasn't a good day, I'll be honest, Rob.
Really? Tell me.
I don't know where to start.
Let's start with context. It's day one of this lockdown, South Africa. But I mean, it's not day one for us. We've been stuck in our homes. What day are we on in terms of that? Do we know?
Well, today was 2 weeks since my kids' school closed. So my kids have been at home for 2 weeks already. And we were pretty much in quarantine, other than our little trips to Dalebrook for 2 weeks.
Early morning swims, 2 weeks, and now after day one of quarantine, you've realized you may not survive this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good. It was a weird day for me as well. So yesterday was my birthday, as you know. You guys sang me a very, very beautiful song, beautiful songs. Yeah, and then today I woke up a little bit hungover and very snotty because I think I'm allergic to alcohol, which is why I drink so little of it these days. Very slow start to the day and just eerie. It's like, I don't know if that's me kind of imposing the sense of eeriness onto it because I know what's going on, but it definitely felt very eerie, very quiet, very slow. Everything for me just slowed right down.
Have you ever been in jail?
No.
Okay. I wonder if day one of your sentence has a similar eerie quality to it.
I would imagine it does. I mean, I'm guessing. Have you been in jail?
Yeah, yes. Actually, I was arrested, and fortunately for me, all the cells were full. Look, this is going to sound like I'm making this up, okay? But I'm not. I was arrested for speeding between the Free State and OR Tambo. And I said, well, can you just write the fine? I've got a flight to catch. And the guy said, no, sir, you won't be going anywhere. You're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will and can be held against you in a court of law. But the paperwork's going to take a while. So if you want to get a coffee from the Wimpy, you're welcome. And then they took me to the police station and they said, you're going to go into a cell. I didn't know for how long. And then they came back and they said, no, by this stage I was somewhere on the outskirts of Joburg. And they said, no, we don't actually have a cell for you. So you can just stand over there in the corner and think about what you did.
But
for a while I thought I was going to be in jail properly.
Okay, but why did they want to arrest you?
For speeding.
It must have been
for going 170 in a Toyota Corolla.
Jesus, that is too fast in a Toyota Corolla.
I still believe it wasn't.
Toyota Corolla,
No, I think the camera, there was something, they tested those cameras in a stationary position outside the High Court, and the High Court was going 3 kilometers an hour.
Oh my God.
I still have a criminal record because of that.
Do you?
Yes.
You're
I can't
kidding
go
me.
to America if I wanted to tomorrow.
But you've been to America, have you?
I have. I think somehow it's like one of those minor ones.
That's crazy. I did not know that about you.
Now you
And it
do.
was just for speeding. You didn't say something. You didn't, like, did you irritate the police officer?
No. All I said was, can you just write out the ticket? Because I've got
I've
to
got
get
more
to the...
speeding to do.
Yeah.
I'm late for this flight. I need to speed away from here.
Yes.
Give me this ticket. I got a couple more to rack up on the way to my flight. And he was like, no. Listen here, funny man. You're coming with us. Stand in that corner there with your
So
water
does it
coffee."
feel like maybe none of us have been jailed, but I suspect the psychological factor definitely is playing a role. And there's been a lot of confusion for white people as well, let's be honest. First we heard from the Minister of Health saying we could walk our dogs.
Uh-huh.
Then the Minister of Police said there'll be no dog walking whatsoever.
They'll shoot your fucking dog. If they see
And
your
then
dog, they'll
I
shoot
saw
it.
another message going, you can around the block.
Really?
We have been, white people have been under such emotional pressure.
This is probably one of the hardest times for white people since the woolies ran out of water.
I've discovered, Rob, that I have discovered my first lockdown hack.
What?
2 hacks. I've got 2 hacks.
I saw you one hack on on your Instagram.
Which one?
Where you hide in the toilets.
Okay, that's actually, so I've got 3.
That is a very good hack.
Okay, the
by way.
toilet is not bad.
I
Hide in
noticed
the
that your
toilet.
children started asking you, why have you been in the toilet for so long?
Yeah. What did I say?
I think you just said, I don't know, which is not a very convincing alibi
Yeah, mainly because I wasn't in the toilet.
at the time. You were in your office, but they didn't seem to pick
Yeah.
up on that. The homeschooling is
didn't.
clearly not
No.
going well for your
No.
children.
No, they're idiots.
Well,
In
as I
fact,
said
I'm
to Danny-
unenrolling them from this homeschooling program.
So why was it so bad for you? Was it just because of that, the psychological kind
Well,
of
listen,
response
let
to
me
what-
first tell you about my other 2 hacks because I'm very proud of
Okay,
them.
please.
Secondly, I discovered, because the 3-year-old, okay, these things are interlinked here. So the 3-year-old is the big problem. The 7-year-old and the 10-year-old are less problematic. But when you get the tantrum from the 3-year-old because she wants to watch right now and they've been on screens for too long and I want to watch. What you do is you pick them up and you spin them around the room. You know that thing where you go, whoa, and you all spin
Yeah.
around and it ends a tantrum right on the spot. It does lead to severe dizziness and nausea, but a little bit of vomit, I think, is worth ending the tantrum for.
Swings and roundabouts. You gotta
Swings and roundabouts. And then the other thing I learned is I can let my dog out of the gate and he walks himself.
I've noticed that with your dog when I came to your house. He would do that. He
He's
would
a
just go.
self-walking dog.
In fact, I watched him shit outside of your next door neighbor's.
Don't tell
gate.
my neighbor.
You in fact congratulated your dog on that particular poo.
Mark, that is not true.
Is that your neighbor, Mark?
My wife, I'll tell
do
you
you
what
know which
happened.
neighbor
I
I was
just
talking
farted. I hope you couldn't hear that.
I can't, but we'll definitely pick it up on your little microphone at your desk there.
So I was not managing the tantrums very well today.
Yeah.
Then my wife went on to an urgent work call with her GP practice. And when she came back, all of the children were back watching whatever they were watching that I'd let them watch. And she said,
Which you shouldn't have let
we
them
need
watch.
to talk about this. Because when I'm working 6 hours or 10 hours a day, every day, depending on what I'm called up to do, you need to find other means to entertain these children.
And you are, after all, an entertainer. So, okay, I've got a couple of questions.
Yep.
Number one, I suppose, on my list is your wife is an essential service. She is like at the tip of the pyramid in terms of essential services in this. She's a doctor, right? I mean, she could.
She's a
be
doctor,
called
but
up
she's
to the
not like an ICU doctor. But I mean, look, if things get radically out of control, which they may very well, we don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. But for the meantime, so she's not necessarily on the front line, but she does feel a lot more important than you do in the current situation.
Yes, yes. She is a lot more important.
And you are just a comedian
Just a comedian. Yes.
who is incapable of entertaining his own children.
Yeah. I have pointed out to her that I have received at least 2 Facebook messages saying, Nick, we really need you. The country needs you. But it was only 2. And
Both from your mother.
yeah, and they weren't. It wasn't on my account actually. I logged into Rob's account.
I saw those messages. Oh, shit.
They just thought I was the one that pranked Schuster. But coming back to the earlier question, my day actually started at. I somehow ended up being awake for the actual lockdown midnight.
Oh, wow.
And one shouldn't be awake past midnight right now thinking about all of these things. And I started to get afraid. I literally was afraid for us as a country, and I started to think about the wave of death and all of that stuff. And then it took me a long time to get to sleep, and then my children woke me up early. So having a good night's sleep right now, I think, is quite critical for your mental health.
Super important.
So I didn't do that, and then of course we entertainers, all our work has been cancelled. So we now have to think about redesigning our entire operation, and that causes anxiety. And then you're getting requests to send out videos to the country, telling everybody that the Corona party is not a great idea. We should stay home. But because I'm a lesser known comedian who only gets 2 Facebook messages saying, we need you to uplift us, I'm wondering how much good that's going to do. So I haven't responded to all of those messages.
Also, like, I feel if you are celebrating this lockdown in the context of this highly infectious, deadly disease, potentially deadly disease, and you decide to celebrate that by having a party with a bunch of people, a video message from a comedian advising you not to do so, it's not really gonna actually help. You're a fucking idiot, and you're gonna die, and you're probably gonna kill a whole lot of other people along the way.
So did you know that the Corona party in the Urban Dictionary, I only found that out this morning, is an actual thing where groups of young people are getting together? Not a pre-existing thing, but I actually walked past one whilst walking my dog on the Greenbelt the other day, not knowing that was a Corona party.
So are they honestly celebrating the Corona and the...
No, I think the main idea is they're getting together to infect each other, to sort of, let's get it over and done with. We're young and fit and we won't get it, but we will get it, but we won't have symptoms, but at least we'll get it. Oh, and if we do get it, we'll get it before everybody else.
Herd immunity.
So there'll be also herd immunity, but there'll also be, if we do need to go to hospital, there'll be some beds. There'll still be some beds there now. That's actually what my father-in-law said to me. He's 82 and he's refusing to stay indoors. He went to Pick and Pay today.
Today?
Yeah.
Seriously, a cantankerous old white Jewish man.
Stubborn. But as his wife says about him, his views are contrary to all other known views.
Any view.
Yep.
So he has an opposing view to whatever view is possibly out there.
He was going to the gym up until yesterday. He said, it's much more spacious.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then, Rob, and then I went from being afraid to, I don't know, sad. I started to feel, I actually meditated this afternoon and I had a wet eye patch by the end of it. I was just feeling lots of heightened emotion.
Is a wet eye patch your way of saying that you had a little cry?
I cried during my meditation, which has never happened to me.
Wow. You can say that you cried. You don't have to say I had a wet eye patch. That sounds kind of weird, to be honest. That sounds like a symptom.
It's only happened to me once before, during a wet eye patch. It was during a past life regression.
Really?
Yes, and I cried on that occasion as well because I had to complete that lifetime by saying goodbye to everybody as I was on my deathbed in the 10th century.
You made that up. I could tell by your eyes.
No, I
that you
didn't.
made that.
It was somewhere around there. It was like a medieval village.
Okay. So you were
Yes, I cried.
the king.
I cried real tears. I'm not afraid to admit that. And the eye patch was wet as a result. And thank you for pointing it out that I had a problem saying I cried.
You definitely do. You do have a problem saying that.
Yeah,
you
because
cried.
I want
It's
to look like
okay.
I'm in control of all of the...
No one's in control.
Nobody
Nick.
is. No one.
No one's in control. In fact, what was it? It was Giddy that said we need to schedule a cry in the morning.
She did.
Straight away.
Get it over and done with. Don't be surprised by it later.
Yeah. I've had a number of cries. I had with my last swim in the sea, I stood on the rock and looked out into the vastness of the ocean and had a great little weep.
I cried, but because you didn't invite me to that last one.
I'm sorry about that.
But you've also been training, you've been doing crying therapy for a while now.
I've been doing TRE.
Yeah, same thing.
I cry a lot during TRE. I bawl. It's like I got wet patches everywhere. On every orifice there's a wet patch when I'm doing my TRE. That's how much I cry.
I actually feel envious because I think mine has been stuffed inside for a while.
Well, this is what I'm doing. Is I also have had it stuffed in for so long, but now I'm releasing it, and it is a wonderful thing to like cry and not have to call it a wet patch.
Thanks, Rob.
I think you should, like, you got to let it go. There are a lot more wet patches coming your way over the next
Yes, I'm sure.
21 days.
You know, I mean, I started to think like even the nature of this podcast right now, or whatever comedians are thinking of putting out, is right now, let's find a lighthearted comedic take and there's Zoom calls and things like that. I started to think, what happens when we start doing Zoom funerals? That's the thought I had today.
Really?
During my wet patch.
Hang on a second. What do you want, Baba? Huh? Scissors. Here you go, my angel.
What are you
close
giving a
that
child
door behind
scissors for at 9:10? It's not a 3-year-old.
Run
it's
around the
fine.
house with those.
Is that a blow dryer? Is that a hair dryer behind you on the wall? What is that?
Yes, that's Danny's corner.
Does it kill the virus?
Yes, you just have to blow it into your face, up your nose.
Whilst gargling with
And-
salt water.
Yes, and spraying a mixture of lavender and Cape Snowbush up your asshole while chanting, "Take me now, take me now."
Look, if I die, I die.
If you die, you die, and you're quite right there. You do die. You touched on something, and it's something I actually wanted to talk to you about. It's this because I had a wet patch yesterday because I did my first online show. I did a full show, and this is what you were talking about. Of like, what are entertainers doing now? And we're like trying to explore all these different ways of doing it. Obviously, the only way that we can do it is go online. That's what we're doing right now. We're exploring all these different ways. And I was approached by a sponsor, Naked Insurance, and they sponsored a show, Insta Live show. But it's incredibly stressful to be thrust, take your art or your craft or whatever it is, and now thrust it into this completely different space that you're not comfortable with, that like I found incredibly overwhelming. Like technology like really overwhelms me. Just having this microphone in front of me and like trying to plug this thing on, and I find it stressful. So to do this show live, I had a little breakdown beforehand because I couldn't figure out how to like even like make my iPad stand properly, and then on top of that is to then you've now got to perform into a void. There's no feedback. I mean, obviously on the Insta Live thing, you got people kind of commenting and they're doing the smiley, laughy face to kind of make you feel like you can hear laughs. But the truth is you can't hear any laughs. And that
also, let's be honest, the smiling, laughing face has become the biggest lie in online comedy.
It's too easy.
We don't know what it means. Are you really crying? Are you...
It's shame. It's like a shame cry for both you, the entertainer who's been forced into this position, and you, the viewer, whose life is so sad.
I think we need a new emoji for actually laughing, because we don't know what... None of them... They're all defunct.
Yeah. And what's strange as well is that it's very interesting now for comedians, because we've got to go into the space where we have to really kind of trust the validity of what we are saying without the validation of laughter. And I think it's gonna change. I mean, look, this might not be for a very long time, so it's not necessarily going to be a huge seismic shift, but for the amount of time that we are doing this, it is going to change the way in which comedy is delivered and the way in which each comedian, I guess, attempts to do it. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Because I know you did a Zoom show for the Garden Shul the other night, and it must have been fucking weird.
Well, I think because I had sort of 8 years of doing comedy on radio, where I had one person I'd get feedback from one person. But, that one person might not find certain things funny. So you didn't always know what, it's kind of hit and miss like that. So I'm kind of used to that void. When there's not even one person, then it's worse. So the Garden Shul, there was the rabbi, but also doing comedy for the rabbi is in itself a tricky thing. But he was great. What I forgot, this interesting thing about Zoom calls was that people mostly left their video on, but I didn't think because I was so busy. I had like a script on my laptop because all these jokes are new. That's the other pressure, because you're trying to make jokes about what happened yesterday, and we haven't it's not up here yet. So I'm like reading jokes off the screen, looking at the rabbi's picture, video there, and the materials here. So I forgot to look. My wife said to me afterwards, "Oh my God, did you see? You could have interacted with all the people on the screens, all 250 screens." I'm like, must I do that at the same time? She's like, "Yeah, Arnold Katz was picking his nose. My parents were eating dinner. Somebody was going, 'Harold, switch off your phone. We can hear the audio.'" And it's just a lot of stuff going on. And it is essentially the antithesis of stand-up comedy. It's not, not entirely the antithesis, but it's an immediate feedback connection with audience thing. So it's now this weird mediated.
Were they muted?
They were actually eventually all muted, but they weren't muted for the first 10 minutes, which was for me the most enjoyable. Well, the last 3 minutes when they got unmuted was probably the most enjoyable part.
Because then you could actually hear the laughter.
I could hear them, and they weren't laughing so much, just talking. And I heard that one joke before at one of his shows. Can't he be original?
How do we write comedy now? Because any old material at this stage, in the context of everything that's going on, seems like so trite and completely ridiculous.
I think it depends what you have in your arsenal, because I was thinking that today, and then I listened in to a worldwide call. Well, it was mainly people in the UK talking about what they were dealing with. And one man in his 40s was talking about today his 42-year-old friend telling him he wants to commit suicide. And this guy talking about his own feelings about that, and then getting into statistics around men between 40 and 45, like in terms of suicide, like some stat like most of the men that die in the world between those ages are killing themselves, something like that, which ties into this material you and I created around that. And then you throw in this pandemic and people's complete feeling of how, and it's like, oh, well, I've got that, that material. But I think you have a point in that, like, the stuff I wrote about whatever was going on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's pointless. I guess so. Then it's about reframe, because I did think about that in terms of like some stuff I had started to write around trauma, and I mean obviously this is like global trauma, so that does work. But then also my other thing that I worry about, just in terms of making jokes, my job, it's like everything is now going to be Corona jokes. Everything is COVID-19 jokes, and I'm already fucking sick of them. Like, I do not want to hear, your opinion on what's going down. Actually, I'm like the glut of Corona pandemic comedy that is just gonna flood the market. Actually, just makes me irritated already.
I also wonder. I was just thinking about a picture I posted on Instagram with my family all wearing fake masks made out of paper towel. And today I actually thought of taking it down, because I thought in 4 weeks' time, when people are dying in significant numbers, I'm going to look at that and think that was pretty insensitive. But because a week ago we had like 100 cases or 50 cases or something, we hadn't yet felt the impact. And I wonder, when we do feel the impact, and I have a feeling it's going to be way worse than any of the first world countries have experienced, how dark is that comedy going to feel?
The thing is that the ground is shifting beneath us so quickly, and the paradigm it's like evolving day by day, and a week from now it's going to be a very 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 different context, and that changes everything. And then
So is the comedy not about our human being reaction to all of this? The human response, because the human response is, there's the virus, but then there's the response to the virus. And the crazy human
Well, I mean,
being stuff people are doing.
one thing that I find super fascinating about this, and I did kind of relate it to comedy on a global scale. It's like, you know, having performed overseas before, like, you know, in London, there's always like a shift and an adjustment that you have to make in terms of your references, and you really got to go through your stuff and go like, okay, well, you know, what's relatable to these people. All of a sudden, there is something that has connected all of us, no matter who you are and where you are. That brings it like right back to, okay, we've all been through this experience, and now if we can kind of experience it through each other's kind of, you know, perspective, it all of a sudden gives them an insight into your culture, the political the socio-political landscape of where you're from, but from the perspective of like something that they have experienced as well, which is really, really interesting. The other thought that keeps running through my mind just in terms of this thing is how, like, I don't think the world has ever felt more connected than it does right now by this disease that has disconnected us, that by the very nature of it, it has made us separate from each other, and to like really observe that like distance from each other to the point where we are like, get inside your home, don't even get within a meter of someone else, let alone like touch them, but at the same time, it's like really made us go, wow, we are so connected. Each and every one of us is so connected. It's crazy.
It's going to be really interesting when we come out the other side and people are like, yeah, let's connect. Let's, I mean, we need to schedule a coffee.
Yeah,
Do we?
We can talk right now. We're talking.
Yeah, relationship is not a function of time or distance. It's a function of relationship. Rob? Yeah? We've got 2 minutes left. How do you feel?
I feel like we've only like scratched the surface.
Well, we've got 12 episodes to go. Are we doing a full season?
I think so. I mean, this could carry on for a very long time. I had a thought today of like, what if when this lockdown finishes and we just all go back to normal? And what a terrible thing that is. Like, I don't want it to go back to how it was. Like, I feel like this huge shift I don't know what it is. I don't know what the shift is, but I don't want. I mean, look, I don't want lots of people to die, and I want us to survive this with as little trauma as possible. But I want there's some sort of feeling that's happening. There's some sort of I don't know. I just had that thought.
Is it something to do with that when confronted with these kinds of things, human beings display the kind of authenticity, courage, bravery, kindness, care for their fellow beings, essentially being who they really are, that they wouldn't normally?
Yes, definitely. I think it's certainly for me. Like, I feel like I'm coming closer to a sense of my true own self, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to go back into old patterns.
How long? Let me ask you a question. How long do you currently spend in the shower?
I'm not sure where this is going. I'm almost nervous to answer. Not long. I mean, I'm still kind of traumatized from the drought, so I try to keep it short. But what I do is end my shower with a cold shower, 20 seconds, Wim Hof,
right,
and breathe in through every hole.
Well, I think the point of that question was, as a city, we went through this very traumatic water crisis, and Yes, we've kind of like, maybe some people have gone back to having 3-minute showers, but certainly for me, that 30-second cold shower, since that drought has remained. Since that drought, I think about the water every time the tap is on. I'm like, really? 20 seconds? Happy birthday twice to wash my hands? Okay, I'm going to lather up and then switch the tap off and then carry on lathering. So I think this is the same.
I like that. I really like that. I guess, you know what triggered it is I saw something on Facebook or something, some article saying, oh, China is now saying that a good treatment for COVID-19 is bear bile, which to me sounded like fake news. It was probably some kind of race baiting kind of fake news kind of thing, but it also did make me just have that terrible thought of like, oh shit, will we learn
what kind of bile?
Bear.
Oh, like from a bear, from an actual bear.
Wild bear, yeah.
Bear vomit.
So yeah, I guess. But like biles, I suppose what you vomit up after you vomited everything else.
Oh, so you need to find a bear that's had like serious
colonic irrigation.
Colonic irrigation. Coronic irrigation.
Yes. And then you take some more.
You just take a sputum cup with you into the woods, hoping to find a sick bear.
Yeah. And a very long one of those gloves that goes past your elbow.
Yes. Well, listen, I think for a lot of people, they will go back to business as usual. A lot of people will be in serious survival mode. How can I? And they will perhaps miss the opportunity of this. Yeah.
We might be stuck here forever. Like this might be like the best. Like we'll talk about this as the good old days. You know, it could get really, really hectic. And then we'll talk about like days before Corona, like telling our kids and grandkids, like we used to go to restaurants. What's a restaurant? It's this place where you go and someone you don't know, you've never met him. He's inside the other room and he prepares your food for you. You don't know if he's washed his hands. You have no idea. Probably not, because he's doing a lot of meals. He's licking, he's tasting, as he's going, and then he puts that food that he's made that you have not seen onto a plate, and then another dude who you also don't know comes and with his bare hands picks up your plate and carries that to you, and then leans over you close enough that he can spit on you or cough on you or drool slightly or you have a wet patch, we don't know, and then puts that in front of you and then you eat it. You ate that food and it was delicious, and we used to do that a lot.
Yeah. I've got an admission to make.
What?
Sometimes on flights, and this is another thing you'll tell your grandkids who go, what are flights? Well, we used to get on these airplanes and go to other countries. I used to get on airplanes to Joburg, and because they assumed because I'm Jewish, I would be kosher. I'd have a kosher meal wrapped in 18 pieces of plastic, because the dietary requirements of the ultra-Orthodox are very severe. And I would send those meals back because they tasted bland. If we ever fly again, I will not be sending those meals back. I will eat them. And I will not ridicule those religious Jews for their dietary requirements, laws, kashrut. I apologize to all the Rabbonim, all you people. Sorry to say the words, you people. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the House of Windsor, even though they're not Jewish. They probably are. They're all running the world. That's the other thing. These conspiracy theories that this kind of event brings to the fore. Suddenly everybody... And it goes right back, I discovered, to the Black Plague, which is pretty much where Jews were accused of stealing, being baby eaters and well poisoners.
Wow. I mean,
Is it that? Have they created this virus? Anyway, I'm quite offended by that stuff in the moment. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not interested in it. What I want to find out is how you're feeling now, 40 minutes into this conversation.
I feel fine.
Is it therapeutic being two comedians talking to each other in the middle of a pandemic?
I think so. Also because I think number one, we don't feel this pressure to have to be funny to each other. We can actually just talk to each other. And anything that we do find funny is genuinely just like a relief and a release. We both have like levels of anxiety that, like even before this, I think is something that we connected over, and now through this, that's obviously something that we, I suppose, are just helping each other navigate a little bit. Also, we're family men. We have a family, and it's nice to be able to touch base about that and how we're coping with that. You've got 3 kids. I've got 1 kid with 3 personalities, and it's tricky. Do you think it helps? What's the point?
I really do think it helps. It does help.
It helps.
It helps just being in communication in general. But when it's with somebody, it's like I was talking to the Garden Shul. The rabbi asked me about Viktor Frankl. Now, Viktor Frankl wrote a book based on his experience in the concentration camp about humor and his ability to find it even in the darkest situation. He talks about the ultimate freedom being the freedom to choose our attitude in any circumstance. And I think that's what comedy helps us do, even in the worst of places. I think what people listening, as the level of anxiety really ramps up, it's interesting to talk about what are you finding is really making a difference in managing that for you.
Yeah. How are you coping with it? What is meaningful now?
I mean, for you, Rob, what do you get? So when does the anxiety spike? What are you doing in those moments? What techniques are you using?
You know what? I was actually quite relieved that we actually went into lockdown today, because the pre-lockdown anxiety was unbearable.
The panic buying, don't panic buy.
Don't panic buy, but as soon as you're in a shop, in that kind of context, even if you're like, I'm just getting what I need for the next couple of days, you're still panicking because you're in a shop in the middle of a global, highly infectious pandemic. I was just panicking. I wasn't panic buying, but I was buying and panicking at the same time. And and I guess also now it's I just want to get into some sort of routine, because it's just been too chaotic. And even today, because it was a late start and like just trying to cleaning up, and like I want to be like tomorrow I want to get up early and get through some things. I want to garden a bit more. I want to, because I know what makes me feel better. I know gardening makes me feel better. I know exercising makes me feel better. I did manage to do that today, thankfully.
What did you do?
What exercise?
Yeah.
I did. So Bijou's got these little these swing, we've got a little swing thing, and she's got those 2 rings.
Yeah.
You know, like for
Yes.
gymnasts use them.
Yes.
But it's a kid one. But I'm now using that, and I do these tricep dips, and then I do I hold up and I point my fingers up to the sky. I go upside down, and then I do like I suppose inverted push-ups, like a planking pull-up. I did 4 reps of those, and then ran around my house twice in between those reps, and try to get my dogs to run with me, because they also need exercise, but they were like, fuck you, we're sitting here and we'll watch you run. And then I did a series of, I don't know, reach to the sky, kind of spider crawl down, 5 push-ups. I did 10 sets of those, followed by 20 lunges, followed by this like Abby thingy, 25 of those, and then 20 squats, and then I did four reps of those. So I got a good sweat on, and that really does help me, and I want to do more of that. I've actually spoken to my personal trainer who lives around the corner, and we're going to maybe do some live things as well.
Yeah.
For fun. I don't know. Yeah, so that, and then to be able to give my daughter some space and time. Like I need to kind of carve out some time for her where I'm not, trying to figure out how to do an Insta Live show or make the microphone work or any of that stuff. I want to be able to just compartmentalize the time throughout all of this, because we've got such a small little house. My manic energy of trying to navigate this new medium in terms of how to work, like putting shows out there, that energy is a little bit desperate at the moment, and it takes over the whole house.
My wife said this interesting thing to me yesterday or the day before when I was in that space. And in fact, what I said to her was, the roles in this house need to be reversed. And you are the medical practitioner during the pandemic, and perhaps we need to relook at who is the breadwinner in this family. And she said, who you are being right now is not helpful.
So it's going very well. I think we're going to figure that stuff out. There's major shifts happening. So we've got to come, and I think it'll help once we know what our roles are and how to divide the time up for those roles. I think that's going to really help.
And I think about people's relationships right now. And if your relationship was on slightly shaky ground pre-corona, BC, before corona, what you must be experiencing now and how you deal with that. Because even for those with strong functioning marriages or whatever situation you have, it's challenging.
It puts a huge amount of stress on it. Yeah, absolutely.
We're barking at each other.
Cracks.
Yesterday I was meant to be. It was like warm up Ben's supper and then put that Indian naan bread on the. And then I was supposed to put the naan bread in the oven, but then Sophie was like, "Dad, come watch me ride my bike." And then so I was like watching her ride her bike whilst the dog ate the naan bread. And then my wife was like, "The dog ate the naan bread. How did you let him eat the naan bread?" And I was like, I can't do everything.
And then she's like, "You're literally doing
Who
nothing."
you're being right now is unhelpful, Nick.
It's not.
We apologize to each other like 25 times a day.
That's a good place to be in, I guess. I'm irritating the living shit out of Danny. I know that. I'm an irritating person. She's got a system and a routine at home, and I keep fucking that up.
I want to tell you something. May I offer you something?
Please.
How long have you been a performer?
Yeah, 27, 28, 29 years, somewhere around there.
29 years. I want you to think of that as pouring concrete. Let's say you were pouring concrete for 25 of those years. The foundation is pretty solid. And this is something someone said to me a while back. Trust the foundation. And that might require developing developing a new trust muscle. But I think that's the case for me too. It's like,
In terms of are you talking about being a performer or being in a marriage?
no, I mean being a performer. I mean having a career, having income
Yeah.
that's not there right now, but at some point.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of not having the validation that we're so used to in terms of like actual laughter. It's like, I think it's a good thing to seek in this moment for us as performers and writers of our own material is to be like to seek validation for ourselves.
Exactly,
Like really
because
like-
contrary to what most non-comedians believe, we get none of that from our partners,
Yeah.
ever.
Nothing. I can't tell you how many times Danny has watched me and then gone and watched other people laughing and then go like with this real like puzzled look on her face. She looks at me, she goes, they find you funny. They actually find you funny, hey? I'm like, yeah, that's what I fucking do. And she's like, oh, this must be nice. I don't know.
What have we learned from this conversation so far? If anything.
What have we learned? That we're at the beginning. We're at the beginning of something and we need to find a way forward, cope with it day by day. Day 1 of lockdown, day 15 of you having your kids at home. You know, I'm also on about... Bijou's school shut down a couple of days after your kids' school. So it's similar. Find a routine, find the things that help us through it, and be aware that the frame of reference and the context is going to shift and change and deepen as we go. We could be heading into some really, really... I mean, we're dealing with quite superficial discomforts. We might be heading into something way, way more disturbing. And I guess it is... We've got to kind of acknowledge that as we go along of how the ground is shifting beneath us and try and keep up with that with love, with a sense of humor, with connectedness, I guess. You know, what you were talking about, you were anxious about this wave of death that might be coming our way. And that's something we've got to... I don't know if you can prepare for it, but it's a real kind of thing. I mean, we had our first 2 reported deaths in South Africa today, right? And they were both in the Western Cape. And there have been none for quite a while, and now it's real, and it's 2 real people out there who have succumbed to this thing, and there are most likely going to be many more, and quite likely, people we know personally and care about dearly. So, yeah, I think shit's going to get real. It's going to get realer and realer, and so we've got to try stay real with it as we go.
Because who I was being today was unhelpful.
So listen, we're gonna. I think we should get some guests on this thing.
Yeah.
We should do a couple of Zoom meetings with some other people for different perspectives, and
I'm really excited about this journey.
yeah, me too. I think it's rad.
Even saying I feel really excited about anything to do with this thing feels, as I say that, I was like,
Oh, you can't say that.
you can't say that. But it's like a weirdly paradoxical time, this, where one can feel that.
Totally. yeah, I'm extremely grateful to have this time with my family. Like, I'm really grateful for it.
I was thinking about that earlier. People talk about by the time you're 18, you've spent 90% of the time with your parents you're ever going to spend with them, or some statistic like that, 95% or something. And I looked around the room with my 3 kids the other day, and I was like, we will remember, if we all make it through this time, this uninterrupted time. And we actually got on a call this morning with another family, and they had created their whole schedule for the day. They'd done their Wim Hof breathing, they'd done their cold water immersion, they'd done some family exercise, they had done some Waldorf coloring, they'd knitted the felt elephant. By the time we had just barely gotten out of bed, our kids had been on screens for 4 hours. We were a mess. My wife was like, they are winning and we are losing. End this call now.
Oh, God.
We're all here to support each other. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. I'm connected. Cool, bro. Love to you guys.
Yeah, back at ya.
So should we do it again when? Tomorrow, I guess, or whenever?
Yeah, I don't have any plans.